Welcome back, Ekin. I was bringing up my idea for our idea for the Rare Roses game to go on blockchain.
Oh, exciting stuff.
Yeah, that board game I found. So, Dev, it's completely not an original idea. I found a board game that I was like, this is absolutely perfect for an NFT game.
Okay, should we talk about it now, or do you want to wait?
We can kick it off with this fun. All right, so it's called Rare Roses. And if you remember, we have AI Rose, which is the first artificial intelligence drawn NFTs using MBuddy to crunch private chain data through Parcel with, Stewart app. It's amazing. The whole project itself with Auth3 and Metamir, it's like very, very cool. But we've been talking about utilities for these NFTs for a long time, and where's it going, and projects and NFT collections that need utility in order to sustain value in the ecosystem. And then with all this play to earn gaming behind NFTs, found this game at a game store. I went for a walk and went into a game store that I love doing this, just casually looking around different board games, different figurines, trading cards. And this store specialized in rare games. They had they claimed one of anything that they could find, but only one. So I spent hours in the store just going through fun games, just finding different ones I never knew existed. And lo and behold, I found a box screaming at me that said Rare Roses. And it actually had all these beautiful roses on the box. And I look at the back and it explains, in Rare Roses, you are a floral designer who specializes in rare roses. You have access to the rare rose market and you buy flowers from it or other players to create beautiful bouquets for your clients. You are not the only floral designer in town, though. You will compete to see who can build the most lucrative floral business. Hours of fun, beautiful to look at. And it's got this instruction breakdown of all the different AI roses. You got to collect, there's 6 shop cards, 43 order cards, rose tiles, a market bag. It's all here. And I just kept thinking to myself, each one of these rose tiles is exactly an AI rose.
That's super awesome.
I know. I pitched it to Nick. I'm like, will Auth3 build this with me? He's like, they don't have the space for that. They don't have time. I was like, come on, man. Make time. This is a good one. So here we are. I'm sharing it with the rest of the devs here. If someone in a hackathon is looking for a play-to-earn game, I'll share the instructions here with you. I just think this is brilliant.
Yeah, that's actually super cool. And I noticed I recently stumbled upon this one launchpad that we have in the network. And what they're doing is super cool. They're looking at all the Oasis NFTs and they give you tiers tiers on participating in the launchpad on all the launches, based on what is the rank of the NFTs that you hold from the sets. Like it's super
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I've seen a few other projects doing that too, with some utility towards DEXs and different launches, IDO, some fun things like that. In our own ecosystem, by the way, there's a few Oasis NFT projects that are doing this already.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably like a good chance of, getting a good ranking on the hackathon, if you provide some like real use case for NFT sets that exist already, I would imagine.
It's a great idea and adds value to our existing ecosystem, potential partnerships from existing communities. We talked about integrating communities and having visions together, supporting one another. And that's really what these NFT play to earn games are. It's access into a community, it's a membership, part ownership. There's such a different feeling than just buying a game off the shelf in Web 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. It's one of those key concepts of blockchain gaming for me, which is composability. I talked about this a little bit when we were getting started, but there's 2 kinds of games in blockchain. There's blockchain on-chain games, and then there are chains that make use of the blockchain. And with on-chain games, there's a number of properties that go into on-chain games, and one of them that I really like is composability. So that's exactly what you're talking about, using other projects, using NFTs from other projects to fuel the game that you're building, and building these kind of composable structures. And that's a huge hallmark of an on-chain game.
That's a fantastic point. Fantastic point. It leads us into, why don't we just dig into what is GameFi? Like, I think we're we're getting around some really good conversation topics, but it really is all within this new space of GameFi. So one of our main talking points here is what is GameFi?
Yeah, who wants to go first?
Okay. Well, I can read our general thing. Let's give the audience some color as to where we're going with this. So GameFi, or play to earn gaming, it's a unique emerging cryptocurrency trend that has gained significant traction. It combines NFTs, non-fungible tokens, and DeFi, centralized finance, with a video gameplay reward system, allowing users who invest their time playing games to earn token rewards. What's unlike traditional gaming models using play to win models. And that's GameFi's model. Pardon me, let me start that over. Unlike traditional gaming models using a play to win model, GameFi's model provides players with financial incentives to advance in rewarding games and enjoy alternative sources of income. GameFi combines video games and blockchain to create an engaging reward experience for gamers. Kind of the dream. It's like a gamer's dream. Becoming a professional gamer was the first dream. Now GameFi is the second dream.
I think, okay, so I have a bone to pick with that. I'm not a big fan of the concept of play to earn, because I don't think good games are games where you necessarily, the object is to make money. And I'll go on a little bit of a rant here. Because there's for example, a couple of companies have tried to do this. They've tried to build games where they're like optimized for streaming, right? And they were like, oh, cool. We know that our big audience comes from game streaming, so we're going to build games that are directly built around game streaming. And in the end of the day, the players, the streamers who actually played the game, didn't find it to be a fun game. Now, it was a great game for streaming. People who were watching it were having a good time. But because the streamers didn't have fun playing the game, it lost, the game eventually died. And I think one of the things that you think about when you do play to earn gaming, or you think about play to earn gaming, I think that still doesn't excuse you from building a good game. And I think that's one of the most important things, is like the game has to be fun. Now, beyond it being fun, there are a lot of really cool concepts that you can take advantage of with blockchain gaming. One is, ownership. While I'm playing a game and having fun, I'm also I'm having ownership of various items in the game. As I'm playing the game, I'm building composability with other NFT projects or other things within the game. As I'm playing the game, I can have provably fair mechanics, which actually shows me that that everyone in the game, like, there's no fraud or cheating happening, because all transactions are happening that are fair. So these kinds of mechanics are really cool and really awesome. But at the end of the day, you have to build a fun game.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because, without fun at the forefront, it becomes an inherent addiction, to be honest. Like, playing to earn is work. That's everyday work. That's people going to their 9-to-5s and doing things they don't like to do. They're earning, but they're not playing. And I think the play part it's in front of earn for a reason. It's got to be fun. It's got to be a game. It's got to be something that you wake up and you're ready to play. Not a game that you wake up sad that you need to play it because you're addicted to it, or there's some type of mechanism, like you're saying with the streamers. That's exactly the way that they felt. I can almost imagine the way that they're feeling playing this game is like how they used to feel at work. Why don't they just get that job again? Because they're essentially working for someone else at that point and not themselves. And that's the whole point of blockchain.
Yeah, there's actually like some discussion about these guilds because of the play to earn mechanics being so profitable that people just, aside of doing like their normal job, they just decide to play games and like become these scholars in the guilds. Like, so there's some discussions of like the guilds gaining so much power and all the items and everything else on the games, so that they kind of become like parasitical, let's say, to the game itself. So like to get all the users and stuff. So I don't know, like, what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
monopolizing the game and creating
exactly.
the evil corporation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a like a coal mine, but just for gamers. You have like hundreds of people all over the world grinding for you, getting you dividends for your investment. Like,
Right, and that takes away the fun too, because then it's just
yeah,
circumventing the financial ecosystem.
And a lot of like on-chain games that I see are really so far, and they have roadmaps that talk about how they're going to build a fun game. But when they launch, all they are just a DeFi protocol in disguise, right? They're like, we'll issue you an NFT and you'll stake an NFT and you'll earn coins, and that's a game. And I'm like, that's not
Yeah.
a game.
That's not a game. That's a process or membership or a discount pass.
Yeah.
yeah.
I've
That's
been
like
seeing that a lot too. Discount passes being kind of renamed as like utility. It's like if I have to spend more to use something as a discount, that's not adding value to me. That's trying to take value from me and disguising it as a benefit or a discount to something as a coupon. That's not a game to me. That's just trying to, work a system.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is. It is. It's. I don't know. Somehow, what like advertisement has done to consuming content, this is doing like a similar type of stuff, but just with finance, essentially. I don't know.
Very interesting.
What do you guys
How
think
does
about
this
like?
pertain?
Oh, sorry, John.
No, you go ahead. I was just going to say how this pertains to Emerald, and we just had Damask, and I was going to go there. Where are you going?
No, I was going into talking about like these early game passes because I've seen some outrageous numbers on the market for those.
Okay, you go. That's more fun.
It's just well, I mean, I recently got in like I started buying this big time. I don't know if you guys know this game, those spaces, and like it's pretty intense because if you buy like a piece of this like virtual real estate, like a space in that, and this is just one game, and they cost I don't know whatever they cost, but like to get access to the game, like an early pass, the prices are like $7,000 to be able to be among the first 2,000 players playing the game. Like that somehow it feels
Yeah.
kind of a bit strange to pay so much to just get an early access for the game.
It's true. And I got to admit, I've got a few of these things in the past as well. And they promise to use that NFT as a character in the game. And there's a lot of this going on right now. You're right. It's almost like you're putting up the money to build these games with the promise that these NFTs will be used in these games. And I think it's important for our audience to understand that. That's why the last time we spoke about this, I alluded to 2017 and everybody paying for these white papers and none of these projects actually having product. I think we're in a very similar situation right now with a lot of play to earn games saying, we'll do this if they receive the funds. And now it's, really put the product out because you've received the funding. So I think that's what you're talking about, Red Icon, is getting into this hype and the concepts of this future game that's going to use this stuff. But really where I'd like to see the play to earn game ecosystem go is what Dev was talking about, is composability with existing value. There's just so much of these promises. It's time for some deliverance.
And one other thing that I'll talk about is actually some of the problems that are with play to earn gaming. And I promise in like a little bit we'll switch around to what are actually good games and not just harsh on these games. But one of the problems with play to earn gaming is how to get funding. Because if you look at a lot of the teams that are building play to earn games are raising money like they're a startup. And a startup has a much different life cycle than a game. A startup ideally raises money and has growth to an exit. With games, you don't have an exit. You have a life cycle. Games don't last for like a life cycle is between 3 months to like 6 years, maybe 5 years. Like games are seasonal. They don't last forever unless you have the very rare game like Dwarf Fortress or something. Unless you're like one of those 1 in a million games. Games generally don't last for more than a couple of years. They're not like startups. So one of the things that we really haven't figured out in the blockchain space is how do we actually fund seasonal games, because we can't fund them just like we do startups.
That's a great point. Thanks, Dev. Fantastic insight into where this is going because, and I agree, Dev, we'll switch to some more positive topics very soon. But this is an experiment, a social experiment, once again, pushing this new industry. We're all at the forefront of this, and it's really exciting. But you do have to remember, we're expecting a lot from these teams, and not all startups have success like some of the blue chips, as we call them. And so, do your own research on these projects as well. But we're hoping that we can form some real blue chips on the Oasis ecosystem. That leads me into a perfect segue into the Emerald Paratime and why Oasis Network is perfect for GameFi. We also had Will join us on stage. I don't know if anyone else noticed that. Will, did you have something you wanted to say?
Hey, Will.
Hi, everyone.
How's it going?
That's a great point about different startups, game. Yeah.
Happy to hear it.
Yeah, like one of the things I'm actually. Wait, are we going to the Emerald, right?
Well, yeah, but after finish, we don't have to finish what you were saying.
No, it's. I just wanted to ask Dev, like, from from a VC's point of view, like, how do you deal with like the term sheets generally? Because like, if you look at like normal term sheets, you have like a year cliff and then 3 years vesting, something like that. But that doesn't work with seasonal games. So, do you know any like how VCs generally are approaching this?
Yeah, like okay, there's three kinds of funding in gaming right now. The naive funding is people kind of buying just tokens and NFTs from a game, and then expecting the game to provide value for those tokens and NFTs, which I think is it's counterintuitive. It doesn't lead to good, like, at that point, the game is then is just trying to build a consumption engine for the tokens and NFTs, and it's not focusing on the number one thing that the game should focus on, which is how to be fun, right? Another way that VCs are looking at it is that they're funding game companies, which is a lot better. So funding a game company means that you're not funding a single game, but you're funding the team, and hopefully that team will build multiple seasonal games, and then you're going to get returns on multiples of games. And then the third way of doing funding is not to do investment, but to do grants. So when we switch into what are some really cool games, my favorite games are like Dark Forest and Conquest.eth, and we'll talk about those in a little bit. But those got funded through grants-based funding from an organization called like 0x Park, which is focused on kind of doing research and the social experiment on expanding what on-chain games can be and looking at those. And so those grant-based funding don't expect anything in return, but they do focus on investing in innovative games rather than just the next token or NFT project. In this case, zero-knowledge proof-based games.
Okay, that's super interesting. Maybe like just as a thought, like for people who are kind of averse to equity investments, maybe in the future, like Game Studio can function as a DAO and release their own tokens to kind of, have a token investment as well. But those are super cool points. Thanks.
Yeah.
Sorry, John, I think I cut you off there.
Yeah, no worries. I'm not, of course. This is an informal chat. So we have an agenda, but it's a soft agenda, and we can dive into the next topic. We're just going to talk about Emerald Paratime. We just went through our latest upgrade, and I can tell you from user experience, huge improvement. That Web3 gateway situation, the solution we put in place has fixed that. So the transactions are back to very fast. I counted to 6, and they're boom, and we finished, and throughput's done. So Emerald's back on track for being perfect for GameFi. And what it allows, and I'll just give a summary. I've got 5 bullet points here about what Emerald Paratime really enables and why it's perfect for GameFi. So 1, it's full EVM compatibility. That's a pretty big prerequisite. 2, easy integration with EVM-based dApps, such as DeFi, NFTs, metaverse, and crypto gaming. Scalability, increased throughput of transactions. And I'm glad I just mentioned Damask, because that's very important. Prior to Damask, you'd say, well, we're having some issues with that, but we're not. The reason that we even had that occurrence on the network is due to demand. We weren't anticipating such an increase so early in transactions, and therefore it sped up our roadmap. But these are all good things, and that's a good problem to have. So we fixed that. The fourth bullet point is the low cost, and this is, to me, this is imperative that people understand it's 99% plus lower fees than Ethereum. And for those of you in the ecosystem, I see you supporting your NFT PFPs. That experience alone for you should give you an understanding of why the Oasis network is far superior to the Ethereum ecosystem. You can't have microtransactions in Ethereum for a game that the transaction itself costs 100 times more than what you're receiving in that game. That's not play to earn. That's, again, like I joked about, that's play to learn. You're making mistakes. So that's right there a huge point. And then fifth, cross-chain bridge to enable cross-chain interoperability. We talked about Wormhole enabling more than just finances. You can transfer your NFTs between chains. Like this is important. And when Dev mentions composability with other projects, being able to move your assets through these bridges to different chains for interoperability, this is the future. It's important. Like we're seeing, how do we figure out seasonal games? How do we figure out game companies rather than a single game? Being able to move assets or previously generated data ecosystems through other games into new games or more popular games through DAO voting, like Ekin alluded to, potentially some of these games having DAOs and then making decisions to move forward as a DAO through cross-chain interoperability. These are all 5 things that the Emerald paradigm really enables. So, what do you have to say about that, Will?
Yeah, if I can add some thoughts, I kind of briefly went over it yesterday in the hackathon channel, but I think actually Oasis is a very good environment for building games. One, because of the high scalability that currently exists, but then two, if a game ever needs more scaling, say it's an extremely popular game and it needs more scaling, it can even become its own paradigm and then share composability while it's going through that transition as its own paradigm as with the what's going on with the smart contracts on the Emerald chain. And then even more so in the future, you can think about it as different paradigms can offer different things. So for example, you can have like a MMORPG that its own paradigm, and then maybe that's not private, but you want to add like gambling as possibility, and then the smart contracts, like it can have composability with Cypher, and then Cypher can have like sort of gambling smart contracts with like poker and things like that. And so it's just like, in my opinion, it offers sort of a logical flow of scaling and then composability between projects. And then you can even think about like not even within one project, but composability with other projects. This is actually something I think is really interesting, is that imagine that, like, similar to how in DeFi, like Yearn can just create a strategy for some token that maybe with like a staked Aave token, they can create a strategy, and they don't have to ask Aave permission. I think in gaming, one of the cool things is like, imagine you see a game is like super interesting, super compelling, and you're like, I want to kind of attract their community. What do? I just allow the NFTs of their in-game items to be cosmetics in my game, and then you create like this kind of composability between games. And I think that's also like an extremely exciting thing that Oasis is well designed to take advantage of.
Yeah, I love that, Will. And what I'm thinking of is, that whole Ready Player One metaverse vision. You're kind of describing that, an RPG where you could port in composability from other games and other data ecosystems. And it's, for me, like the Grand Theft Auto guy in me, I think about their new online ecosystem that they've been promoting for years, not new, but they built a casino inside the online ecosystem, and it is its own ecosystem inside of the general ecosystem where you go in, you play games. You can't do anything that you can do outside of the casino, but once you're in that casino, you participate. And it's a very similar feeling in my mind where, if you have other NFT projects or blockchain projects, like you mentioned, using Cypher for a gambling casino, why not port in that ecosystem, that composability, so that when users in the RPG walk through that door, they are actually entering that other game, and it is interoperable. Very cool.
What are everybody's favorite blockchain games that they've played? And yes, this is just me giving an excuse to show Dark Forest, but I can go last.
Yeah. You go last. So far for me, it's been mostly gambling. There hasn't been a lot of other games that I've really dug into that I felt really spoke to me. I do love the idea, the concepts of the play to earn gaming, and I'm definitely going to dig in when something comes along. But for me, it's those fun little interactions. A couple projects that never took off the ground. One of them, I invested in one that was meant to be an online casino, and we played a lot behind the scenes. So there was a lot of dice games and a lot of table games. It was really cool, but the speeds and the blockchain that it was built on, it wasn't built on Oasis, which is why it didn't succeed, and it just kind of got defunct. But mostly gambling for me. Not that says anything about me. I just, most of my time goes into Oasis.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. So I think we're gonna see John's Oasis Casino at some point.
Yeah. That's don't Dev. I don't know if you know that we're working on that together. Actually, John and our team.
Nice.
Some fun things there. Yes, we're just fleshing out some things. I'm not saying we're building a casino. We're working on games of chance. It's a good thing. We're pushing the envelope on things that don't exist right now.
Nice. Yeah, I did.
Sorry, you go back in?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, for me, I haven't played a lot of play to earn games, but so far the one that I found most interesting is DeFi Kingdoms. I just more so the economy and the play to earn aspects of it. I kind of like these philosophical kind of questions, and it was very interesting to see, how they built their game, and they kind of again captured sort of the composability or the tribalism that exists in crypto initially, and yeah, I thought that was kind of very interesting. And then also to kind of segue to my original point, something that I didn't mention was that I got the idea of this, logical path forward from DeFi Kingdoms, as they started off on Harmony, and then when they needed to scale more than Harmony, they created an Avalanche subnet, and I think that this is probably the path that most games will take in the future. Launch on an EVM, and then when you need more scalability, build your own, sort of similar to actually how they built their own chain. And I think Paratimes are maybe a superior, easier way to build your own chain. That was something I wanted to add to my previous point as well.
Cool. Yeah. For me, I think the gaming experience in blockchain has been made like Sandbox and Decentraland. I like to play a lot of role playing games, and those are the ones that kind of give you the experience closest to that. But yeah, what I've noticed with Decentraland at least is there's been a lot of performance issues. So mainly because they're building on Ethereum and it's not really scalable to support all the users. And Sandbox solves it a bit differently and has a bit more quest oriented approach as well. But those are pretty. Those games I've tried out, and overall the experience has been positive, especially with Sandbox. But yeah, I think Decentraland, the performance was an issue for me at least.
Those are really good. And Dev, right before you get into Dark Forest, some of the other games that I've played in the past, they were kind of a bridge. They used centralized mini games to then settle leaderboard competitions through blockchain. So you would pay to play the game, and then your high score would dictate whether or not the leaders won the pool over a certain amount of time. So there was some of those as well. Those games were quite addicting, like normal games that you would play on an everyday, but you add that element of blockchain kind of competition behind it. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, and to go off on that, I have actually not just Dark Forest. I have 5 different ones to talk about. One of them is actually a type of game. It's called Pool Together.
Okay, get your pens out, guys. I'm writing all 5 of these down.
I don't know if you've ever seen Pool Together. Anyone heard of it? Seen it? No.
Potential is that the no loss lottery?
Yep. No loss.
Yeah.
No loss.
Yes. I love this.
I love it.
actually want to do something like this.
Yeah, and it's a great way if you are building a blockchain game to build a blockchain mechanic where you. So for people who don't know what the no loss lottery is, say you want to run a game, you can say, oh, to play my game as a civil resistance attack, you have to put a deposit down of like $25 or whatever amount of money, right? And you want to do this because one, if in blockchain games, one of the big problems is because there's like rewards at stake, a lot of people are incentivized to create multiple accounts, and you want to kind of discourage that. So you can set up a fee system where you can say every account that you create requires a set number of fee, which will prevent civil resistance. Then, as you play the game may last a week, maybe a month, whatever. All of the money that you have collected, you pool together and you stake it into a DeFi protocol that earns yield. And then at the end of the game, whoever won your game gets the yield that was generated, and everybody that just played and didn't win just gets their deposit back. It's a great way to to add in civil resistance. At the same time, creating a reward for your winners without actually needing to shell out any cash yourself. So to me, that's a really cool dynamic blockchain mechanic that you can use to make your game blockchain, even if your game has nothing to do with blockchain. Like you might be creating a shooter, right? And you can just use this mechanic, and suddenly now you have a very cool blockchain mechanic in the game that has nothing to do with tokens, nothing to do with NFTs, but does reward players because it's a blockchain game. So that's my first tip of the day.
And I think it's important to just cover the basis here of advertisements. Like when you have this pool together, no loss lottery mentality of, you're willing to pay for something, but you're either going to get it back or it goes to a good cause or whatever it is. It's no different than when you're playing a normal game and an ad pops up, right? Like this is the same type of mentality. They're earning, you don't mind it, you're willing to give it to them. But yeah, there's those breaks within a game that you can really reward your community in the blockchain space a little bit different than the Web 2 way.
Yeah. Second thing is a game called Mini Nations or Mini Royale. This is on Solana. I think it's called Mini Royale, or let me see. Mini Royal Nations. That's what it is. And it's a shooter where you can earn and upgrade and do all of these things because you have a high throughput chain that it runs on. That's been actually a really cool one. And then you can get like cosmetics. So this is a very CSGO like game, entirely on blockchain. Not entirely on blockchain. It has an off-chain component, but you can earn all your rewards on chain, which is really cool. So every time you kill someone, you'll earn tokens, or you might earn loot boxes, which might have cosmetics in them for playing the game. And again, this is another great example of ways that you can build blockchain games without necessarily selling NFTs and tokens and then staking them and doing all of these things. Even though this product has NFTs and tokens, you just play the game and you earn them. You're not buying those NFTs and tokens. You're playing the game and you're earning them by playing them. So that's my second one. Third and fourth are a game called Conquest.eth and Dark Forest. So these are both entirely on-chain games. I'll talk about Conquest.eth first because it just launched. They're still beta testing it. And it's a game in which you can go from planet. They're very similar games, slightly different mechanics. But basically, you go from planet to planet. You can stake your tokens that you buy to conquer planets, and you can send. You can attack from one planet to another and do all of these things. I like it. I like all of the mechanics for it, but I'm not a big fan because I think it takes a long time for all of the things that you have to do. But I think it's a really good case study in an entirely on-chain game, and I would recommend it. If someone's interested in building an on-chain game, to take a look at it just to learn a little bit more about what an on-chain game can look like. Dark Forest, finally. Actually, I have one more after this, but Dark Forest is one of my favorite all-time games. Not even an on-chain game. This is just one of my favorite all-time games, period. I've gotten massively addicted to Dark Forest. It is entirely on-chain. Every move you make is a zero-knowledge proof. It uses information asymmetry, so when you load into the game, all around you, the whole map is actually hidden from you. And you might be like, well, how can the whole map be hidden from you in an entirely on-chain game? Because an on-chain game means all data is public. Well, this is because to actually to figure out what's going on around you, you actually have to hash each coordinate around you, and the hash lets you know, and it helps you figure out the area around you. And then every time you make a move, you're making a zero knowledge proof, so you're not revealing the XY coordinate of the planet that you're attacking from or the XY coordinate of the planet that you're attacking to, only that the move that you're making is valid. So the game is going to process your move as a valid move without revealing any information about the spatial locations of the planets that you're on. Unless someone has done the work of like trying to find out who you are and where you are. And this is a very, very interesting case study into how zero knowledge proofs can be used in on-chain games. And I think like if you are a game developer, it's definitely like and thinking about building on-chain games, 100% get your hands on your Dark Forest, play around, start a lobby. It is a very exciting game. And then finally, the people who have built Dark Forest are working on something called Lattice. Lattice is a cross-chain kind of game engine for on-chain games. And this is something that if you're at the Oasis Hackathon, you might be thinking about building, is instead of a game, you could be thinking about building infrastructure for games.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is like identity systems or composability layers or all of these things. So in the gaming ecosystem, you don't have just games, you actually have a lot of leeway in actually building infrastructure that games can use. Okay, that's the end of my rant.
That's a fantastic point, Devin, and that leads me to some of the advancements in VR. Like one of the good examples is Steam, offered Half-Life's Alex, and that gaming engine that they created for that game, they said is going to be the future platform for majority of games that come out with a similar impact or a similar quality. And so that's a perfect example of an ecosystem needing an advancement pushed through, a platform of what the game is built on. And so, yes, we do need gaming engines. We do need some of the tools, the platforms, all this stuff is very important. So any of the devs out there listening to this, there's more than just the game. That's completely right. Maybe business opportunities you didn't think about that you're creating, subsequently through your game. But why don't we talk about RuneGuard? This is an example of a game being built on Oasis. Ekin, do you want to dig into that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. It's pretty exciting. So they've been, this team has been in the acceleration program for some months already. And we're gonna this month we're gonna start seeing this month and in May we're gonna start seeing the first results, actually demoable playable content. Nothing necessarily huge, but something that actually shows how the gameplay is, some of the mechanics. And I know the team is very eager. They're pushing forward pretty hard. But I mean the general idea of the game is we're gonna have our first trading card collectible Magic the Gathering type of battling game. So you have your different cards. They have you have a deck of those cards, and then you can battle. Essentially, there's a battle mechanic with the cards like in many other games, and then you have your avatars that move around these little avatars essentially that go around in the world. And so I think it's runeguard.net. if I'm, let me just quickly check. Yeah, I think it's roomguard.net. We can surely share the URL somewhere, but yeah, this is going to be super exciting. So we're going to see the first card game, tradable card game, collectible game in Oasis. Maybe somebody will beat them to it. That's possible, but currently that seems like a pretty cool, exciting thing going on there.
I'm really excited for that. I've been looking to get into Magic only because I know that you and Ronnie are really into it. So maybe I'll skip Magic though, and I'll just wait for this game to come out.
Yeah, this could be like a nice interactive soft intro.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Awesome. I'm going to give some shout outs to some other game ideas that prior to this event were brought forth by the community. And if it rings a bell for anybody, I mean, anybody can put their hand up if they want to speak about it, if you were the person that brought this idea up. But let's go through a few of these really quickly. I mean, sport character NFTs on FIFA or 2K. That's kind of fun. So they want to do an NFT version of all these professional athletes, create a game around that. Let's see. Something like RuneScape with blockchain-enabled marketplaces. Assassin's Creed with NFTs, that would be pretty cool. And for Diana, who comes from Ubisoft, that would be probably pretty incredible. And maybe they can reach out to some developers. This Minecraft one, that would be perfect. I actually was thinking this myself. A Minecraft type game with items and resources. Like, you could bury NFTs and so much fun inside that on Oasis. That would be so great. Card games, that's a no-brainer. Poker, I can't wait for. But blackjack, I mean, card games, I know, I went straight to gambling. There's other card games available other than gambling. But we even had Connect 4 back in the day using Parcel. There was Connect 4, there was Battleship, there was poker, and then there was one other one. It was Hangman. That was what it was. And it was actually really fun. And it was using Parcel for differential privacy to do all these different things. So those are super simple games that were really fun to play. And that's kind of the old school Flash games like Blockchain Tower Defense. That's such a great example. And then in-game card games like in-game card games on Witcher 2. That would be cool. That Blockchain Tower Defense game, that brings me back to what Dev was talking about with the no-loss lottery and the pool togethers and stuff. It's like people that pay to play these small games, there's something about adding value to that where it rolls over into an entry into either, like Dev was talking about, receiving your funds back through pooled together investments or even lotteries or different things where playing the game enables more value than just that one hit of dopamine. Some really fun ones in this list. Bingo is another one as well. These are some great ideas.
I want to bring up one more idea. So we've talked about a lot of consumer games, and consumer games are great. Like, I love consumer games. I'm a consumer, play these. But another idea for, and this is just stuff that, I'm working on, so maybe someone else will find this interesting, is, does anyone here know what a CTF is? Anybody heard that term?
Okay. Yeah. You mean like a hacking competition?
Yeah. So okay,
cool.
just get everybody else on the call up to speed. A CTF is what you think about when you first hear the word hackathon. So in a hackathon, people work together to build products. In a CTF, security engineers compete against each other to basically play a gamified version where they're breaking down security contracts to earn points, and the person who wins the most points wins the CTF. A great example of an EVM CTF is Ethernaut. You can check it out at ethernaut.openzeppelin.com. But if you are a developer and you want to write, and you're not really good at games necessarily, but you want to write something game related, you could create a gamified scoring engine and create security contracts that people can break into and build a game around that. One of my hackathons one of my Ethereum hackathons, that's exactly what I did. And so if you want to check that out, you can check that out at like ethernaut.openzeppelin.com and build something similar to that for Oasis.
That's actually a super good idea.
That's really cool. Like that. I didn't know that that's the basic form of hackathons is these security code breaching scoreboard things. That's really cool.
Is that like I'm just okay. I need to ask more. Like, so you're saying, like, Dave, you said that you make it like in a smart contract, so you kind of have the bounty inside the smart contract, and whoever captures it kind of gets the reward, I'm guessing. But is anybody doing that on the network level, like to have like a CTF on all the nodes that are running on these crypto networks?
I don't know if you're doing it on the node level, because the way the smart contract stuff works is that, and this is specifically for the Ethernaut, because I love the Ethernaut architecture, is that they have a registration contract, and then they have a modular system where you can write your own levels, and you can create a level factory and register the level factory with the Ethernaut contract. So people can basically go in, say, I want to create a new instance of this broken contract, and that way when I hack it, everyone can have their own instance that they're messing around with. I don't brick it for everybody else if I do something wrong. And then when I get the points, I can redeem the points for my instance, and then I just try to race against everybody else to make points. If you guys know what DEF CON is, the conference, you ever heard of DEF CON?
Yes, I have heard of that for sure.
Legendary CTFs.
Yeah, so DEF CON is a massive security conference that happens in Vegas, usually in August, and they have tons and tons of different competitions, learning environments, etc. They have CTFs. One of my favorite things that they do is they actually do a CTF LARP, where they gamify. They create a whole narrative, like one of these competitions. They create a whole narrative about how there's a hidden world where there's people out, there's a paranoia, there's people out to get you, and I had this whole idea for creating a blockchain-fied game where you're trying to where there's two sides, each side competing to protect their nodes, and their nodes are represented via smart contracts, and the other side trying to hack them and break them, and then you get prizes for breaking into a node. You get cards that you can redeem, and all of these things. So there's and all of this is an educational game because you're learning how to write smart contracts and play with smart contracts. Now, again, this is not a consumer game, but as a developer, this is stuff that personally I would play. So again, niche your audience. But if you're a developer and you want to build something that is not a consumer game, here's another idea that you might find interesting.
Yeah, and this is like especially for like academics and researchers, this is super interesting. So maybe, I know for sure John is planning like big stuff with universities. Maybe this could be something cool to run with them.
That would be really cool. Thanks, Dev. We've got a community member that might have a question for us. Why don't we invite him down? Zishan, if you want to. Perfect. How's it going?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, there we go.
Can you hear me? Oh, awesome. So yeah, I'm totally new to this. I'm just using this hackathon as a learning, like as a learning opportunity, not as a winning opportunity. So I was just thinking maybe my idea might sound naive because I'm totally new. So speaking of gamification, can it be applied to like other industries where the actual product is not the distributed app? It's your usual system. It's your usual Web 2.0 system, but the reward system is based on blockchain. So like for instance, an educational platform like Coursera or Udemy, if we provide a kind of gamification protocol or gamification system for them, so that the users can get achievements in forms of like tokens or crypto money or stuff like that. Same like, and the same concept can be applied to other industries, like maybe retail, online purchase, groceries, stuff like that. Just motivate people to do stuff to earn tokens or NFTs on on the blockchain.
Yeah, I think that's adding gamification to traditional business, and I think that's where a lot of amazing blockchain projects are using the technology itself, is to bridge what traditional enterprise businesses are doing with blockchain. So there's definitely a time and a place for that. But GameFi is a little bit different because it does focus on the gaming side of things. So with Web2, you'd more be looking at particularly a Web2 game or something along those lines. But GameFi and gamification are two separate things, in my opinion.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's like one's adding incentives, and the thought behind what makes games work is, that whole participation and feeling rewarded. And then GameFi takes that and applies what blockchain has done for traditional business into the actual gaming industry, this revolution behind, hey, this is perfect. We're already having fun with this in enterprise businesses. We should definitely look at this for the gaming industry. And that's where, NFTs and the metaverse and Web3 have really pushed this conversation, because, blockchain, once again, is pushing a new industry of technology. Thanks for coming down, Zishan.
Yep, thank you. Thanks a lot.
All right, that was fantastic participation. Thanks. We've got a couple things that we can talk about. Dev, you mentioned prizes, and that's a buzzword right now because we've got an upcoming hackathon event, Pitch Night, Thursday, April 14th, 5 p.m. UTC, the prize pool of $2,000 USD in rows. So you can win some rows that night. Pitch Night, Thursday, April 14th, 5 p.m. UTC. Hope to see you there. We're going to be building the next generation of dApps for Web3 and beyond. So the whole hackathon, as you know, prize pool, 200,000 in rows in prizes. I'm hoping to raise brand awareness of Oasis within the developer community, grow the Oasis dApp ecosystem, increase TVL, everything we need to do with DeFi 2.0 and play to earn gaming. Oasis.devpost.com is the website. You all know that. You're all here. Jump, our sponsors, NGC, Newman, Hash, Dragonfly, thank you so much. But Jump particularly, Dev, thank you so much for spending this time again with us and giving insight into some of the amazing projects that you're supporting, you're working on, your insight into this entire industry, some new insights for us as team members. Thank you very much. I learned some things today. It's always a pleasure having you with us.
Thank you for having me on. I love it when people just let me rant.
Yeah, that's basically what this is. Ekin, thank you so much as well for putting your time into this and giving your BD insight and leading these guys as a fantastic mentor to the ecosystem. Will, thank you very much for your insight as well. Thanks for coming down. We appreciate that as one of the ecosystem growth managers and a huge advocate on the BD side as well. So anything that our audience needs from any of us, you know who I am. I'm John, community lead. Anything you need from us, please let us know. Ideas are flowing. There's a whole list. If you need help, still reach out. But otherwise, I hope to see you at Pitch Night, Thursday, April 14th at 5 p.m. UTC.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Dev. And thanks, Will.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great day.
See ya.
See you.